A 19-year-old was arrested for a drive-by shooting in rural Solon. He violated probation more than 40 times. I-9 investigative reporter Ethan Stein is in studio to show us another edition of our I-9 investigative series, released too soon.
Nicole, after pleading guilty to engaging in a sex act with a 13-year-old, court documents show Bryant Wallace was placed on probation for 5 years, meaning no prison. Documents our I-9 investigative team found shows he violated probation repeatedly, and just yesterday was arrested for his part in a shooting that barely missed hitting a person's head. Most of Wallace's violations were for allowing the battery on the GPS around his ankle to die and for missing sexual abuse treatment programs. He also received fines for speeding over 100 miles per hour and driving with a suspended license. Correctional Services, he was arrested for those violations, then released on bond. About 2 months later, Bryant was charged with robbery and assault. Investigators say he beat and robbed a man, and then he was allowed out on bond again. Then 2 months later, GPS data shows he was at the location of shots fired call in rural Solon. Bryant served 90 days in jail for violating probation. Then he was arrested again for charges related to the shooting. Prosecutors say he and another teenage drove by an RV and fired 5 shots at a camper, coming close to hitting the person inside. Community-based corrections for the 6th Judicial District oversees probation in Johnson and Lynn County. Our I-9 investigative team asked why his probation was not revoked after more than 40 violations. An official says there is no number of violations that will result in a recommendation to revoke, but it considers the volume and severity of those violations. He also says the group used incarceration and court intervention, but had evidence to suggest that Mr. Wallace had protective factors in place to build off of, to protect himself and the community. Our I-9 investigative team has done other stories about people convicted of violent crimes avoiding time in prison. You can watch those stories on our YouTube channel. Just search Released Too Soon. In studio, Ethan Stein, KCRG TV 9 News.